Okay, if you're like any of the clients that I have, or even myself, there are so many courses that you've signed up for, so many posts on LinkedIn that you've saved, posts on Instagram that you've saved, and things that are really good information that you want to implement, but somehow you never do it. You might even do it for a day. You might be like, okay, this is the new me. I'm going to do this new thing. I'm going to be this new person. And then the next day you fall off the bandwagon and then you're gone and you never do those things. Today, I want to explain to you why that is and what to do about it so that all these good intentions actually stick. Before I get started, hi, I'm Amber Deibert. I'm a performance coach for tech sellers, and I am one of these people who has the best intentions and just can't quite get myself to do these things until recently. So I'm going to teach you everything that works for me and everything that's worked for my clients so that you can be this person as well. We're going back to basics today. Today, we're talking about habits, and I want to really teach you the science behind habits and what makes them stick and what makes them not stick. So first of all, a habit is 3 different parts. You may have heard this before, but it's worth repeating and it's worth understanding because this is how you reprogram the bad habits that you have, and this is how you add in the new good habits that you want to add to your routines. So first of all, the habit has 3 different parts. The first part of a habit is a cue. There's something in your exterior, there's something about the time of day, there's something about your energy level, there's something outside of you that cues you that it's time for that habit. Maybe it's an afternoon coffee. You start feeling tired, and so you're like, oh, I feel really tired. I need some caffeine. I need a shot of caffeine right now. So there's some kind of a cue that signals to you that it's time for that habit. Maybe it's that you go to your bathroom, and after you take a shower, you know that you're going to brush your teeth. There's certain things that we do that your brain is trying to spend less energy trying to think about these things. And so anytime you repeat something over and over and over again, your brain just puts it back in muscle memory. Once it becomes a habit or it becomes a routine, your brain doesn't have to think as much about it. This is like driving to work every day. There's sometimes when you drive to work and you don't even really remember the drive. It becomes so habitual that your brain just puts it in your muscle memory. You don't even have to think about it anymore. So a lot of things, you already have these habits. Maybe you have a habit of picking up your phone more than you'd like to. Maybe you have a habit of turning on a show when it's late at night and binge watching something and staying up too late. You already have a bunch of different habits that are existing in your reality, and some of them you may want to change, and some of them you may want to add new habits that are going to be more helpful for you. So the first part of a habit is the cue. This is so important. If you start to notice what your cues are, then you can start to recreate the habits that you have that aren't particularly helpful. So there's a cue. The second part of a habit is the actual behavior. It's drinking the coffee, it's looking at your phone, it's exercising, it's brushing your teeth, it's eating breakfast, it's calling a friend. Whatever the behavior is that you're doing, that is the habit. And then the last piece of a habit is the reward. At the end of every habit that you continually do, there's some kind of a reward. So I remember reading about this in The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and he talked about how every afternoon there would be a cue. He'd start feeling sluggish and tired, and so he'd go downstairs to the bakery that was in his office building and he'd buy a cookie. And then he'd get this hit of sugar, which would give him a dopamine rush, and that was the reward that he got. But he wanted to swap out his habits. He didn't want to eat this cookie anymore because it was causing him to gain weight, and it wasn't particularly helpful for him. And so instead, when you want to change a habit that's an existing one, you can find a new behavior. You're still going to have the cue, and you still want to give yourself a reward so that your brain wants to do it more and more, but you can swap out the behavior. So for him, he noticed that after afternoon sluggishness, instead, he would go for a walk around the block. So he would feel sluggish, he would go for a walk around the block, and then he got a hit of dopamine. He got a burst of energy, and the energy was from going for a walk instead of getting a cookie. So this is the first way that you can start to shift your habits. You can notice what are the cues, what are the behaviors, what's the reward, and try to swap out the behavior that you're taking. So maybe you want to look at your phone less. Notice that I'm picking up my phone, and instead of scrolling, I'm going to maybe read a book, or I'm going to, I don't know, tie friendship bracelets, or I'm going to knit, or I'm going to call a friend. Notice those behaviors, and you can have the same cue, but just swap out the behaviors. Let's say that you want to add a new habit to your routine. You've watched amazing influencers talk about their sales outbound prospecting routines, and you want to add this more into your daily routines. And it's so hard. Whenever you're adding something new to your routine, your brain instantly is very skeptical of this thing of like, your brain is optimized. We've talked about this before. Your brain is optimized for avoiding pain, seeking pleasure, and reducing effort. And so you have these great ideas of, I'm going to do more prospecting. I'm going to try this outbound strategy, and I'm going to send more video messages. Or I'm going to send more voice DMs on LinkedIn. And like, this is going to be great. But instantly, as soon as you decide that you're going to do that, your brain is like, absolutely not. This is not proven. We don't know that this isn't going to kill us. Like, what if it is painful? What if it's not enjoyable? And what if it costs a lot of energy? I don't know where my next calories are going to come from. I got to conserve energy here. And so your brain instantly is going to want to put the brakes on and be like, no, we're not doing this. So that's why it's so hard to add new helpful behaviors to your routine, because your brain is instantly putting on the brakes and resisting all of that. I always think about this whenever I remember in the past, I used to train for half marathons. And as soon as I got my training plan, I would be like, okay, great. Only 3 times a week, we're going to go for a 5-mile run. It's going to be easy peasy, no big deal. After work, I'll do that. And every time I was getting into this new routine and this new training plan, my brain resisted so much. My brain was like, absolutely not. This feels painful. This feels like it's going to take a lot of energy, and it doesn't sound fun at all. But inevitably what would happen is that after, a few weeks of following this training plan and just doing it, even though my brain resisted, I found that my brain would stop resisting. And suddenly I found myself desiring to go on a run. Have you experienced this before? You start a new exercise routine, and at first it's really hard and really painful, but then eventually you get to the point where you're like, I couldn't live without it. I don't know how I survived before not having this exercise routine. The way I think about it is that your brain kind of has this like not approved list. Like, running is not approved. Running might kill us. Doing this new outbound strategy, definitely not approved. This is going to make us look like a fool. We don't know what we're doing. We can't let ourselves be seen that we're making all of this up. But what happens is, as you continually take action over time, it's like your brain moves that task over to the approved list. Your brain's like, we've done this 10 times now and we haven't died. I think we can probably do it again. And the resistance drops. Have you experienced this before? This is what happened to me when I was training for half marathons. I would be forcing myself to run, not wanting to run, just like muscling my way through. And then eventually I didn't feel any resistance, and I actually wanted to go for a run. So whatever the new habit is that you're trying to implement, try continually doing it, and eventually you'll get to the point where it's not hard for you to do it anymore. Another tactic, if you're looking to add more helpful habits to your routines, is to break them down super, 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 super small. There's a book about this that I'm obsessed with. It's called Tiny Habits. It's by BJ Fogg. He's a behavioral scientist at Stanford. And he talks about when you're trying to add new habits into your routine, you can make them super tiny. We're talking like you want to floss more, and instead of deciding that you have to floss your whole mouth, you just floss one tooth. I know that sounds so silly, but when you tell yourself, I only have to floss one tooth, you're really likely to do it. Or maybe you want to exercise more, and instead of doing a whole 40-minute exercise routine 5 days a week and like being really perfectionistic about it, he says, what if you just do 1 push-up a day? Having a really tiny habit makes it a super easy barrier to entry so that you actually get those things done. And as you build that consistency, pretty soon it's going to be easy for you to maintain the habit, and you're going to be able to add on to what you actually want to be doing. Another technique that BJ Fogg talks about is habit stacking, which I'm sure you've heard of before, and I think other people talk about this as well. But the idea of finding places in your routine where you're already in some kind of a routine, using that as a cue to trigger this new tiny habit that you want. So maybe it's that as soon as you turn on the shower and as you're waiting for it to warm up, you do 1 push-up. Or for one of my clients, she wanted to do more of she had physical training exercises that she needed to do. It was so hard for her to figure out where to fit them in her day. And so we tried to find something that she does every single day. And she's like, well, I heat up oatmeal every single morning for breakfast. And so I said, well, what if we try that? What if as soon as you heat up the oatmeal, you lay down and you do your physical therapy exercises? And so she tried that. And now suddenly she did her physical therapy exercises every single day, which is something I aspire to do as well. I've never been able to actually do those exercises. I have the very best of intentions, but man, it's so hard to like actually do them. So finding something that's already in your routine that can be the cue for you And habit stacking on top of something that you already do every single day can be incredibly helpful. Okay, so a quick recap of what we talked about. There are 3 parts to habits. Number 1 is the cue, and it can be so helpful to notice what is cueing you to do the habits that you already have that you don't want to do anymore, and also what are some cues that you can use to do the habits that you do want to do. So the first part of a habit is the cue, the second part of the habit is the actual behavior, and the third part of the habit is a reward. I didn't mention this earlier, but it can be so helpful to reward yourself when you do a habit that's new. And the reward doesn't have to be like a treat or buying yourself something. It can literally be just standing up and celebrating. When I have done something really hard that I did not want to do, I stand up and I fist pump and I celebrate myself because I want to train my brain and my body that was a helpful thing to do. We did it, we succeeded, and then hopefully my brain starts to crave doing more of that. The next thing I talked about was breaking your habits down super duper small. Don't be afraid to make them tiny and just start getting in the consistency and start getting in the routine of doing those little habits. It's going to feel ridiculous at first, but a little bit is better than nothing at all. And then lastly, look for ways to stack your habits within the routines that you already have. Find something that's already a part of your routine, already something that you do. You probably aren't even cognizant that you do this, but find a part of your day where you're already doing this and stack that new habit in where you want. I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, please let me know. Come reach out to me on LinkedIn. Just search for my name, Amber Deibert. And if you want more incredibly helpful tips, come join my newsletter. You can get on the list at mentalmastery.com/newsletter. I'll see you next week.